Taken by Kachuk. And he takes the dish. He scores! The captain leading by example!
What is going on, YouTube? It has been like 6 months since I've posted on this channel. I've been busy with work, but if you think that means I haven't been keeping up with hockey, you would be wrong. I've been watching a lot, and you know the time of the year that it is. It is time for playoff hockey predictions, and so without further ado, let's get right into it. I'm going to do my predictions a little bit differently. I'm going to go out of order in the first round, which I know normally people don't do. I'm actually going to be ranking the matchups by how fun they are, how good of a matchup they are, how excited I am to watch them. So we're going to start with the 8th matchup. I think is probably the most boring first round matchup. It is going to be the Golden Knights versus the Minnesota Wild. The Wild squeak into the playoffs despite not having Kaprizov or Joel Eriksson for the second half of the season, pretty much solely because they racked up so many points when these two were healthy in the first half of the season. To be honest, I didn't think either of these teams would make the playoffs. The Golden Knights not making the playoffs was much more of a hot take, but here we are. I'd say mostly because Kaprizov was having an MVP season before he got hurt. The Wild blue line is very good, and I like Philip Gustafsson. They have one or two good forward lines, but not a ton of depth. My biggest problem with the Wild is the same as the Leafs. They can't win a first round to save their life. They've lost more first rounds in a row than I can count on my hand as a wild card team who barely made it in. There's no way you're getting me to bet on this team to beat the Pacific leading Vegas Golden Knights. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not in love with this Vegas roster. I mean, they got rid of a lot of guys in the offseason. Adin Hill struggles with injuries and is inconsistent. I can go on with the negatives of this team and how I doubt them every single year. But here we are once again with them at the number one spot in their division. There's just something about this organization and their system that no matter what happens, they don't seem to go away. I'm trusting this Vegas team to not somehow get upset by a Wild team that can never get out of the first round and just doesn't have as appealing of a roster. I think Kaprizov is good enough to lead the Wild to one win at home, probably in Game 3. But I got Vegas beating the Minnesota Wild in 5 games, 4-1. The next round 1 matchup I'm going to be discussing is the Hurricanes versus the New Jersey Devils. Through the Metropolitan Division, we find ourselves with a 2-3 matchup between the Canes and the Devils. Right off the bat, I'm going to be honest, I'm pretty underwhelmed with both of these teams. Of all the 2-3 matchups, this one is the lowest regular season scoring matchup we have, mostly because of the Devils. Without Jack Hughes and Dougie Hamilton, this team has been mid at best down the stretch. The positives with New Jersey is their defense and their special teams, and Markstrom is a solid goalie as well, but I don't think it's going to be enough to beat the Hurricanes. Even though I doubted the Canes a little this year with some of their losses, especially with Necas and Rantanen, where I believe the Canes kind of got screwed. Logan Stankoven is a solid future piece, but right now, this team isn't what they've been in the past playoff appearances that they've had. However, they also have great defense, goaltending, and special teams. In the season series between these two teams, the home team won every game. So if you want to look at the Canes having home ice advantage, it's a good spot for them. I'm just more confident in the lineup the Canes are putting out. I think if the Devils were healthy, they'd win the series, but without 86, and I think Dougie Hamilton's actually coming back, which is huge if you're a New Jersey fan. But they're just kind of mid, to be honest, and I think New Jersey's special teams and the defense can steal them a game or two. The reason this isn't a sweep is because I'm not even that confident in Carolina either, to be honest. I have the Hurricanes winning this one in 6 games, but I wouldn't be surprised if they won in 5 or even swept the New Jersey Devils. Next matchup is the number 1 seed in the East, the Washington Capitals, against the Montreal Canadiens. Now, right off the bat, I owe all Canadiens fans a huge apology. If you're coming back to watch this video and you remember my Atlantic Division predictions, then you know that I predicted that the Canadiens would finish last, and I kind of got roasted a little bit in the comments. And guess what? I could not have been more wrong, because here they are somehow in the playoffs. Now, the thing about the Montreal Canadiens, they're fun, they're exciting. I can't wait to watch their home playoff crowd atmosphere. It's going to be electric, but they're facing a Washington Capitals team that has proved a lot of people wrong. They somehow finished first in the East. Ovechkin breaks the record. All things good. Even if you don't look at Ovechkin, the pieces that they added for forward depth have helped them score so much. Their offense has completely flipped around from last year. Chikrin on the blue line, I thought was an amazing addition. Their blue line is stacked. My biggest problem with Washington is how healthy Logan Thompson is going to be. I definitely like him a lot more than Charlie Lindgren. Not saying Charlie Lindgren isn't capable, but I think that the Capitals, if they want to have a deep playoff run, they definitely need Logan Thompson healthy. Now, I think they can still win this series with Charlie Lindgren. In fact, I think they can smoke the Canadians. The Canadians, it's hype, it's fun that they got here, but at the end of this day, this team has no depth. Their blue line is pretty much horrible. And Sam Montembeault, although he has some flashy games and flashy moments, he is so inconsistent. He's either given up 8 goals a game or 0, like a 50 save shutout. So I never know what it is with this guy, and come playoff time, I don't really trust him at all. I actually have the Capitals sweeping the Montreal Canadiens 4-0 in the first round. I think that the Canadiens are going to have some fire. I think it's going to be fun to watch them. They'll probably score first and maybe even go up 2 goals in a couple games, but I just don't think it's enough to beat this Capitals team. I think the Capitals are just so solid right now. So give me the Caps in 4-0. Sorry, Montreal fans. Next up, we're heading back to the West, where the Winnipeg Jets are going to host the St. Louis Blues. The Winnipeg Jets winning the President's Trophy, having the best regular season record in the league, and unfortunately for them, they have to face a hot St. Louis Blues team who is in no condition, no place to make the playoffs, but then went on this crazy 12-game winning streak and barely snuck into the second wild card spot. And I think this sucks for the Jets. Honestly, I was hoping the Blues were going to pass the Wild for that first wild card spot so they could face the Golden Knights, because I like the Jets and I don't like the Golden Knights. But it doesn't end up that way, and we have a division rivalry matchup between the Blues and the Jets. The Jets, I mean, they have a great regular season, pretty much the same as last year. Connor Hellebuyck wins the Vezina, best goalie in the league. He might even win MVP this year, which would be wild. They do pretty good at the deadline. They get Brandon Tanev, just another basically fourth liner depth piece. But this team is pretty much the same as last year. Great depth. They got elite scoring, like with Kyle Connor and some other guys. Mark Scheifele had a great season, especially for my fantasy team. The blue line is great. Josh Morrissey, one of the most entertaining players to watch. And then, of course, the best goalie in the league. You look at the Blues on the other side, it's so tempting to just take the hot team right now. And we saw them do it in 2019. Last time they went on a streak at the end of the season to make the playoff like this. We all know what happened. They went and won the cup in a crazy fashion. Jordan Binnington is a great goalie. He looked great for Team Canada at the Four Nations, and he rode that momentum and played great down the stretch for the Blues. The Jets have quite a problem in the playoffs. Great regular season team, but I had them beating the Avs last year in round 1. They fail miserably at that. They haven't made it past the first round in a long time. The Blues haven't seen the playoffs in a couple years. Last time they were in the playoffs, though, they made it to the second round. And I think this is a spot, even though the Jets have home ice advantage, I think this is a great upset opportunity for the St. Louis Blues. I think if Jordan Binnington plays well, he can backstop this team to a victory over the Jets. And I just think if there's any upsets that are going to happen in round 1 in the NHL, I think this is a great spot for one to see the Winnipeg Jets just choke once again. I think they had a great opportunity last year. I know the Avs are a harder draw than the Blues, but I think they had a great opportunity last year to beat the Avs in round 1, and they just absolutely fell short, and they were flat, and I just can't bring myself to say that that this year's different. I can't. You look on the other side of it, the St. Louis Blues, so hot, so streaky, and they're just a hot pick, and I think I'm going to send it. I think that the Jets do better this year on round 1 than they did last year. I think this series goes 7 games, but I think in game 7 in Winnipeg, I think the Blues shock the world. I think they bring out the ice, and I have the Blues winning this series surprisingly in 7 games, beating the President's Trophy winning Winnipeg Jets. And Blues squeak into the playoffs, and you squeak past the first round too. Now we get into the top 4 matchups in round 1, starting at number 4 with the Stars versus the Colorado Avalanche, a rematch of the Western Conference semifinals last year. We have the 2 versus 3 in the Central with the Stars and the Avs. Out of all the 2-3 matchups, this one has the most regular season points, and this one is no doubt going to be a banger. I hate to spoil it so early, but I'm just going to come out and say it. I think whoever wins this matchup wins the West. I think these are the two best teams in the West right now, and I think whichever team has enough to beat the other can beat anybody. The Stars have home ice, and they also stole Mikko Rantanen from Colorado. They lost to Miro Heiskanen for the season due to injury, Stankoven to the Canes, but on paper this team seems pretty stacked. I also saw that Tyler Sagan's coming back right in time for the playoffs. However, here's my problem with Dallas. Jake Ottinger is an above average goaltender, everyone knows that, but he can be inconsistent, especially late in the playoffs. The blue line got worse this year after letting some of their guys go in the offseason, and now with Heiskanen out, the blue line looks pretty shaky. This team's edge right now is their forward group, but even then, I don't know if it's enough to match Colorado's. Not to mention the Stars ended the season by losing like 6 games in a row, so not the like momentum that you want going into the postseason. The Avs, however, acquired Marty Necas, Brock Nelson, Charlie Coyle at the deadline, improving some much-needed depth offense. McKinnon and Makar are McKinnon and Makar, but there's two things that stand out for me with the Avs. The first is a competent goaltender. How this team managed to win a series last year with Georgiev in the net is beyond me, but now that they have a competent goalie in Mackenzie Blackwood, this team is now a real contender. Not that Blackwood is amazing, but he's definitely better than Georgiev, and this team won a cup with Darcy Kemper a couple years ago, so here we go. The second is the return of Captain Gabriel Landeskog. Nobody knows how this man will perform after missing 2 years, but if they're bringing him back, they're doing it for a reason, and even just the captain's presence might be enough to get revenge on the Dallas Stars that they lost to in 6 last year. I have the Avs coming out on top this year in this series in 6 games. Note for some of you betting folks out there, I don't remember the last time the Dallas Stars won a game 1. They've lost at least 7 game 1s in a row, so if you want to juice that Avs money line in game 1, I might be doing the same. But Avs in 6, you heard it here first. Alright, we're getting to the top 3 banger matchups of round 1, and at number 3 we have the Tampa Bay Lightning hosting the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. Now Florida went out at the deadline and got some pretty good pieces. They got Brad Marchand, Seth Jones, a couple other guys, and this team looks like last year's Cup champions. They're honestly a little bit banged up. I know that Sam Bennett is back. I don't know about Anton Lundell. Matthew Tkachuk's on IR. I don't know if he'll be back in time for the playoffs, but here's the thing. This Panthers team is a lot worse than they were last year, in my opinion. They don't have home ice this time in the playoffs. The Lightning do. And also, I mean, the Panthers are banged up. Sergei Bobrovsky had a pretty off year. He definitely picked it up in the second half of the year, but he's getting old. This team might be tired. They've been to 2 Stanley Cup finals in a row, winning the last one, of course. And then you look on the other side, let's look at the Tampa Bay Lightning. They go out on the deadline and get Oliver Bjorkstrand and Yanni Gourde from Seattle. Great depth forwards. Gourde coming back to Tampa after his legendary cup runs in a couple of years ago. Bjorkstrand's a great goal scorer. I think they even put him on the first power play unit in the bumper slot, which is great for Kucherov, a great option for him. Bjorkstrand is an absolute sniper. And you look at this Lightning team, I predicted them to miss the playoffs because I hated how they let Stamkos go. But once again, I was dead wrong because this team turned it around. They were better without Stamkos. Not only that, but the Nashville Predators were horrible with Stamkos. So it looks like the Lightning did the right thing. Jake Gensel, what a piece he's been. He's been amazing. Kucherov, another amazing season. My problem is this, though. Last year in the playoffs, I actually picked Tampa Bay to beat Florida and upset them in round 1. Couldn't have been more wrong. Florida goes on to win the cup. Kucherov got completely shut down in that series, and if you think the Florida Panthers will do that again to Kucherov, I don't blame you. It seems like they know how to play defense on him pretty well. But I think that the Lightning kind of have a different culture in the locker room this time of year. I think they have more confidence. They have a better regular season record than the Panthers this year. They have home ice advantage. They have more depth. And the Panthers might be a little banged up, might be a little tired. I think that the Bolts might actually beat the Cats this year. I think it'll be a close series. Battle of Florida is always fun, but it's not like one team really owns the other. They've gone back and forth in the playoffs the last few years. And I think this year, I think the Lightning have a better team. I think Vasilevsky is the better goaltender. I think Bobrovsky's getting old and he's more inconsistent than Vasilevsky is. So give me the Lightning to beat the defending Stanley Cup champs 4-3. I think it goes 7 games back to Tampa Bay, and I think the Lightning take it. Note, the last 2 Stanley Cup champions have gone out in the first round the next year. Vegas got out in the first round last year, and then the Avs the year before that. So, I don't know. I mean, that's only a 2-year thing, but if you want to look at that and think that the Panthers might go out in the first round this year, you can do that. But here's the thing, if you're a Panthers fan, I know there's not many of you out there, but if you're disappointed, guess what? I have picked the Panthers to be out in the first round now for the 3rd year in a row. And what has happened the last 2 years? They go to the finals. So if you're mad at me, maybe it's a good thing I'm picking Tampa because probably means Florida's going to the Cup finals. But my final pick is the Bolts beating the Panthers in 7. See what happens. The matchup I am second most excited for is the Ottawa Senators at the Toronto Maple Leafs. Ottawa is back in the playoffs and they're set to take on the Leafs in the Battle of Ontario. This series is going to be physical and fun as hell to watch. As we kind of have 2 opposite sides of the coin here, Toronto has been to the playoffs for like the millionth year in a row, while like more than half of the Sens roster has never played a playoff game before. I think Toronto had a great year managing to win their division, with players up front producing a very solid blue line, and this year I feel like they actually have really solid goaltending. Stoller's had a great year, Joseph Woll is good as well. Will it be enough to convince me to pick them to get it out of the first round though? They've made it out of the first round once in like the last 20 years, Jesus. Here's what I like about Ottawa. Amazing blue line, a proven great goaltender in Linus Ullmark, great skill up front, and if Brady Tkachuk is healthy, we saw what this guy can do in big games in the Four Nations face-off, and I personally think this dude is going to be a whole different beast in the playoffs. The Sens also, by the way, own the Toronto Maple Leafs, sweeping the season series and just always performing well against Toronto. With how bad Toronto's star players are year after year in the playoffs, it's hard to say this year is going to be any different because they kind of got the same core. It's the same story every year with this team in round 1, and I'm not going to bet on them to finally make the jump this year, even though they got the 1 seed in their division, especially against a young, exciting team like the Ottawa Senators, who I think will surprise a lot of folks in the playoffs this year. I have the Senators going into Toronto, beating them in 7. Go Sens, go. And finally, the most exciting matchup in round 1. It is the rematch for the 4th year in a row. The Kings and the Oilers. Something a little bit different this year. The Kings have home ice advantage. They snagged that 2 seed up in the Pacific Division. And the Oilers, who are banged up, haven't really been healthy in a couple months, go into LA. The Kings have been one of the best home teams, maybe the best home team in the league this year. And everybody is looking at LA. The reason this is the most exciting matchup for me is I think this year is the best chance LA has had in the last 4 years. This team is so solid. Their core group, their forward group looks great. Their power play looks deadly. Incredible defensive team. And their goalie, Darcy Kemper, has looked great all year. I mean, he's been solid. He hasn't missed a beat. And that's what they've been missing, I feel like, the last few playoff runs against Edmonton. So they haven't had a good enough goalie, but this year Kemper, I think he might be the answer. As well as having home ice advantage, that might be the answer as well. If that is your argument, great. That is awesome. I believe you, and I don't blame you at all if you take the LA Kings to finally conquer the Edmonton Oilers this year. However, here's where I come in and say, nah, the Edmonton Oilers own the LA Kings. No matter who has home ice, no matter what injuries are going on. In fact, McDavid said it. He's like, I don't like people calling us injured going into round 1. We'll be fine. The only piece that is going to be missing for Edmonton is Mattias Ekholm. I know it's a big loss on the blue line, and maybe their cup chances are hindered because of that. And everyone is looking at Stuart Skinner. He's not the answer, and I agree. I don't think they win a cup with Stuart Skinner. But look at what he did in the playoffs last year. He took him all the way to the Cup Finals, Game 7. I know he's had pretty much a horrible year, but that doesn't mean come playoff time that he's going to be the same. He could lock in and bring this team back, okay? McDavid and Draisaitl, everyone's saying, oh, McDavid, his stats are down this year. He was injured for half the year. This dude comes back and rips a new one in these teams, okay? And he owns the Kings. I have no doubt he's going to be great against the Kings. Let's talk about Leon Draisaitl, Rocket Richard winner this year, best goal scorer in the league. This team also has depth. Like, Jeff Skinner could be, it's his first playoff game ever, right? I mean, he could be good. Jake Wallman, a great piece. I know he's injured down the stretch, but I like that addition. I think this Oilers team, if healthy, if they had Alcombe, would probably even be better than the team they had last year in the playoffs. So I like that the Kings, this is their best shot that they've had in a while. I like the LA Kings. I'd be happy if they won. But in terms of like making my bracket, I still have Edmonton beating the Kings for the fourth year in a row. I think the Oilers win this one in six. This one was probably the toughest round one matchup to predict. That's why I saved it for last. But I'm sticking with the Oil in six. All right, for the second round and onwards, predicting the Stanley Cup playoffs, I'm going to go a little bit faster because I already talked about each and every team individually. We're going to start with the Avs versus the Blues in the second round. And in this series, I have the Avs winning 4-1 in 5 games. I know the Blues had their little miracle run towards the end of the season, and they even got past the first round, got past the Jets in 7, but I just don't think they have enough skill to top everything that Colorado has. I think the Avalanche are really going to show their power right here and kind of just smoke the Blues in 5. Yeah, I don't really think it'll be that close. And then whoever faces the Blues in the conference finals, they're going to be scared because of how well they are about to play against the Blues in the second round. The next matchup in round 2 is the Golden Knights versus the Oilers. And although I had the Oilers beating the Kings because they own the Kings, obviously, in round 1, I think maybe in round 2, this is where the Oilers' problems this year are maybe going to start to show a little bit more, whether it's their injuries, maybe some guys get hurt and can't play, or they're just playing not to their full potential because they're hurt. Or the bigger problem is going to be Stuart Skinner in net, and he might have been able to hold off the offense of the Los Angeles Kings in this scenario, but I don't know if the Oilers this year have what it takes to beat the Golden Knights. And honestly, like last year, they beat the Canucks and the Stars in the playoffs. But I just really don't like this matchup for the Oilers. I think Vegas is too solid. I don't think they're gonna make as many like mistakes for the Oilers to capitalize on. And yeah, from having them miss the playoffs this year, I have the Vegas Golden Knights advancing to the Western Conference Finals to face the Avalanche. I have the Golden Knights beating the Oilers in 6 games. I think the Oilers can get 2 off of them, but again, like I think the Oilers are good, and I think they can make a cup run. I'd be happy if they won the series and made another run, but I just don't think they have what it takes to beat the Golden Knights. I just don't like this matchup for them. If it was a different matchup, maybe it goes differently. But let's go to the East. We'll start with the Washington Capitals versus the Carolina Hurricanes. I have written down here actually the season series was tied 2-2, but the home team won every single game. In this one, I am actually predicting that the Washington Capitals kind of run away with it and beat the Hurricanes 4-1. Like I mentioned in the prediction for the Canes and Devils, I'm not that high in the Canes. That series, that matchup prediction was more just fading the Devils because I don't like the Devils right now. But I think the Capitals are just are a much more solid team. They were much better in the regular season, and I think the series will be close. Like the games will be close, but I think the Capitals they're just a little bit better, and Logan Thompson will probably be healthy by this point. And so I'm taking the Capitals in a close 5 games. Caps 4-1. They move on to the Eastern Conference Finals to face either the Ottawa Senators or the Tampa Bay Lightning. I had Ottawa beating Toronto in 7 in the first round, and Tampa Bay beating Florida in 7 in the first round. So both are going to be tired, both coming off 7-game series. And here in this series is where I think the experience for Ottawa maybe comes into play a little bit more, or their lack thereof, because they're facing a Tampa Bay team that has so much more playoff experience, ring cup experience. They've won cups, and these star players have actually now had more rest. They're not on 3 back-to-back Stanley Cup finals. They got eliminated in the first round last year, so these star players are maybe a bit more rested, a lot more experience, whereas this Ottawa team is probably tired. It's their first playoff series, went 7 games. So in this scenario, I do think Ottawa puts up a fight. I think they're an exciting playoff team. I think they're going to be a good playoff team, but just not enough to beat the Lightning. I think the Lightning are just too good, better than the Senators right now. So I have the Senators taking them to 7, but at home ice advantage. I have the Lightning beating the Senators 4-3 in 7 games, moving on to the Eastern Conference Finals to face the Capitals. We'll move back to the West first. It is going to be the Vegas Golden Knights hosting the Colorado Avalanche. And yeah, here's I mean, it's kind of just the same old story. I'm gonna have the Avalanche beating the Golden Knights, advancing to the Stanley Cup Finals. Like I said right away off the bat, I think whoever wins that round one matchup between the Avs and the Stars, I think advances to the Stanley Cup Finals because I think those are the two best teams in the West. I think the Avs are much better than the Vegas Golden Knights. I think the Knights' missing pieces that they missed in the offseason are like their lack of depth is going to bite them in this series versus the Avalanche, who just they have better star players and they have more depth. And I think that's just going to come out to show. I think Vegas maybe wins a couple games. So I have the Avs winning in 6. Avs avoid all game 7s on their way to the Stanley Cup final, same way they did it when they won the cup in 2022 there. So give me the Avs in 6 over the Vegas Golden Knights to advance to the Stanley Cup finals. Who are they going to play? It is either going to be the Washington Capitals or the Tampa Bay Lightning. And yeah, to be honest, I think the Capitals' run comes to an end here. I don't think they have as powerful as a star player focused team as the Tampa Bay Lightning do. I think it's the Lightning's year to get back to the Stanley Cup Finals. Although Washington has that home ice advantage, I could say, forwards, defense, goalie. At the end of the day, they're just not as good a team as the Lightning. I think up and down the lineup, the Lightning have the Capitals number. Capitals were an anomaly playoff team last year. They got some great pieces this year, but at the end of the day, Ovechkin's old. Their goaltending is good, not as good as the Lightning's, and maybe just some young playoff experience here for the Capitals. They're just not as good as the Lightning. So give me the Lightning. I'm gonna have them winning in 5. Another kind of blowout series. I just think they're gonna overpower the Capitals in this one. Give me the Bolts 4-1 over the Capitals, which leads us to our Stanley Cup Finals, a rematch of the 2022 Stanley Cup Finals. It is the Colorado Avalanche versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I think, I said the Lightning in the East, but honestly, if Florida wins that round 1 matchup and they prove that they're not tired, they're not injured, they're still the same team they were last year, I think Florida goes to the Cup. Same kind of thing with the Avs versus Stars. Whoever wins the Battle of Florida, I believe, will make it to the Stanley Cup Finals. So this final could very well be the Stars versus the Panthers if I'm just completely flip-flopped on this. But I have the Avs versus the Bolts. These are the two best teams, I think, right now heading into the playoffs. And who's the better one of the two? I just think at the deadline and in that the Colorado Avalanche added the right pieces. I think this is pretty much a better team than they had when they won the Cup. If Gabriel Landeskog can get into form, this team, I think, is just going to be pretty much unstoppable. I have the Avs winning this one in 6, 4-2 against the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Colorado Avalanche are your Stanley Cup champions. Now, I'm going to put out a quick disclaimer. I am not an Avalanche fan. In fact, I'm a Seattle Kraken fan. I hate the Colorado Avalanche. They're one of my least favorite teams in the NHL. So this is, in my opinion, I think this is a pretty unbiased bracket. I really do just think that the Avs put the pieces together perfectly, and they're the best team in the playoffs right now. And I think they're going to win it, completely unbiased. The most biased is probably the Sens, because I like the Senators, as you could see from the gameplay in the background. The Winnipeg Jets I really like, but I don't have enough confidence in them to even get past the first round. So, that's pretty much it. Avs over Bolts, pretty much same as the 2022 Stanley Cup Finals. Let me know your predictions in the comment section below. Who do you guys have winning the Cup? What series am I going to get wrong? Just absolutely backsplash in my face. Which ones am I spot on about? Let me know what you guys think. Let me know who you guys want to win the Cup. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for making it all the way to the end if you did. That's crazy. But, I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.